right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here today, and we've been chatting before I hit the record, so it's been perfect and divine and lovely. So I'm really excited that we're live with all of you now, and I I don't even know how to begin this aside from saying that really we're with Gitte here together, and it's really a beautiful moment that we've been talking about for a really long time. So the planning and the I think just the divine design of coming together today is really extraordinary. So I'm excited to sort of open up this bloom that has been sort of waiting to bloom for a really long time, is how I sort of see it in my mind's eye. It's sort of like that final burst that you get to see the flower. So anyways, this is Gitte. Gitte, I'm going to have you say your full name appropriately in your way. So go for it.
Hi, Paul. Hi, everybody. I'm Gitte Graugaard from Denmark.
So that's the reason why I wanted to say that first, is that anyone watching, in that Danish sort of love, that you have that. And the way that I say Gitte's name, and I call Gitte, but I say Gitte, and it's Gitte Winter Graugaard is how I would say that. So if you're looking her up phonetically, it's Gitte Winter Graugaard, and I'll put obviously your name and your website so people can really properly look into you. But I'm so grateful that you're here together with me and our audience today, and I am really excited. So how are you?
I'm good, and I have been just having this butterfly feeling all day that I get to talk to you and talk to your beautiful community. It's a big honor for me to be here with you, and I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. And what I love about our meeting is that this is the thing that you can't plan, is when you really show up with your heart and with your light, the universe conspires to, I think, bring you together with other people that are doing some version or something similar as you. And you're one of those people that I think about often, with how powerful you are as a creator. And what I love that you create is you create, I think, from a space that I've not witnessed from many others. And you create and co-create with the idea of parents and children both sort of in mind together. And I think that's really interesting. And I think you have tapped into something that's very profound with your work. So I'm excited to sort of share a conversation. And I think the best way to do that is for you to explain kind of what you do. So let me just ask you, what do you do?
Yeah, well, I write books that open up the worlds within us. So we have endless resources within us, and our hearts are full of light and love. And in many ways, we have forgotten about that. So I write books to remind, especially the parents, that they are light and love, and that they can beam that to their children, because the children know better. They haven't derailed in the same way as many adults have yet. So they haven't been around so long. They haven't forgotten in the same way that we are light and love. So the children are sort of easy for me to write to. It's more the adults. And in that way, it becomes a co-creation between the child and the parent, especially at bedtime when they read these meditations to their children, because the children then reflect the energy that the parent beams by reaching into their hearts. And that meeting heart to heart, soul to soul with your child is just magical. So in that sense, a lot of people write to me and say, you write magical books. Wow. And I always reply that it's the meeting between your heart and your child's heart is creating the magic. So to take ownership of really connecting to your heart is important for the parents. They know that they are producing the magical feeling themselves. So in many ways, I'm an author writing about what's inside of us and all the resources we have inside of us and that we have forgotten about. So I'm sort of just reminding parents and children that we are light and love.
Well, first of all, to begin with, that is just the perfect snapshot of what you do. And I just want to sort of amplify it even more, because what is really interesting, there's a couple of things that are coming to my heart right now. And the first is that I think it's really important to mention that for me, I know that the time before you go to bed, at night, as a child and as an adult, it's very sacred, very special, very important to sort of put light upon. And I think it's interesting because what I think you really touch on is that space and opportunity before you go to sleep. Before that time, that sacred time, or that sacred ritual or routine of, putting your child to bed, which I know as a child, I loved that time. I loved my parents tucking me in, my mom would tuck me in or my dad would tuck me in. And I remember it very specifically because it was a time where it's sort of like you end the day with safety into the night with safety. But I think what's really cool about what you've tapped into is that you've created a bedtime story technically, but it's also about the inner space and the consciousness of, I think, ultimately love, the divine love that we have, in common with, our mother and our father and the children, obviously as well. And or father and father, mother and mother, it doesn't matter. And I really love that you have done this in a way that's very organic and really easy to be in that space with your child. So yes. Just to expand upon like how that came to be with maybe you and your children.
Yes, I would love to. Before I go there, I would love to share the vision I have when I do this with my children. So I sit in front of this huge dream loom. Is that what it's called in English? You might have to help me with some words here, but I'm weaving the first threads in my child's dreams with the meditation. So what I find is that when you tap into deep love just before the child goes to sleep, it also affects their dreams and the depth of their sleep. And the brain is like a huge dishwasher at night. But what program have you started the dishwasher with? So it cleanses so many things during the night. So first of all, we need to let it cleanse to the end so that the program is finished. But also we can program it with certain flavors. And if we program it with love, I believe that the restitution of our child is much better, because we are sending, we're doing so many things when we light up our hearts at bedtime. So to know as a mother that you spend 10 minutes, 30 minutes, but it will affect their whole night, is just, it makes it even more important for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But you asked how I started, and I have this very specific night in mind. I was training to become a healer, to be a meditation teacher, mindfulness instructor. I was in training to become a life mastery coach. So I had these, years of just studying our minds and spirits and hearts and soul. And I was really digging into all of that at the same time. And one night I was at a meditation class to become a meditation teacher. And our teacher told us about heart meditation. And that was the first time I heard that as a type of meditation. And she took us into this valley, and she showed us our love mountain, basically is what I call it today. And you walk into the mountain and you open a door and you walk into it and you see your beautiful heart and you fill yourself up with love. So that's basically what I remember she taught us to do. And I just had this beautiful experience. It was like a la la land feeling with rainbows and unicorns and colors and light and music and warmth. And it was just amazing to hang out with my heart. It was so huge. I couldn't even see it. It was just a big, 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 big heart. And then we wake up after some time And we share our stories, like what we have seen or felt.
Mm-hmm.
I share this amazing feeling, and I love this way of meditating. And then the woman next to me is 10 years older than me, and she's crying, and her energy body is just crippled. And she's crying happy tears because she's been searching for her heart for the past 10 years, and she hasn't been able to connect to her heart. But today our teacher told us to turn around inside the mountain to see if we could see the heart if we couldn't find it. And she saw in the corner a little light beaming like a little bird, and she went over and she picked it up and she reconnected to her heart, and she blew air, like literally the last light she blew her whole spirit into, and from that stage she would never lose it again, she swore that night. And to know that she had to search for it and she hadn't been able to find it for 10 years, and I have always had it in my life, it really made me reflect. And it made me very conscious that if I could do one thing with my children, if I could give them one gift, it would be to know how to always be able to connect to your heart, ask for advice, and sort of lead your life from your heart. And that became like the heart as a compass sort of way. And I thought it must be a way that I can translate this type of meditation into something that they would understand. And at that stage, they were 3 and 6. So I drove home in my car and I made a promise to myself that I would try to explain this to my children somehow. Mm-hmm. And that was like the whole beginning, because then maybe already the next night, I started telling them these stories about what I now call the Valley of Hearts and the Love Mountains and the Love Cloud. And I invented all these different magical creatures and stuff inside that meditation for it to be more suitable for children. But the basic was the same. You see your mountain, you go inside your mountain, you find your heart, you fill yourself with love. And from that, so many things can happen. And they would ask for these meditations every night. Like for half a year, we did it every night. They loved it. And I soon saw that it had a very positive effect on how they were thriving, sleeping. And like in so many ways, they were just more happy and they loved going to bed. It wasn't a punishment that you had to go to bed. All of a sudden they're like, can I go to bed? Because they just loved meditating. And then after a while, I started noticing their sleep. Like there's something with heart meditation and sleep. And what I now know, and what I soon learned, was that the gate to dreamland is in our hearts. So when we connect to our hearts at bedtime, children and adults, it becomes much easier to fall asleep. And from then on, I started thinking, okay, we know that children today in general sleep 1 hour less than we did 30 years ago. We know that sleep is a major thing and that we as adults don't sleep enough and children certainly don't. We know a lot of parents are struggling with helping their children to sleep. So then I thought, okay, and I was already an author writing books for children. I thought, okay, this could maybe be something I could write down in a book. And so I did.
Bada boom, yeah. So while we're on the subject, I wanted to just a proper highlight to this gorgeous gift. And if you're looking for something, first of all, I think people get really confused sometimes about meditation. I think there's a lot of mystery around meditation. And really, if you simplify meditation, it's just the inner space of love. That's really, and the inner space of light. And it goes into that so many things come from. The inside creates the outside life. And I think when you go inside with the simple breath into the simple light and the simple love that we have first for ourselves and then others, it's so much easier to just understand it. And when you do that, it expands. So it really is an amplification of your own love, of your own light in your life. And when you connect to it, it's where all the miracles happen. I swear, it's the gates of heaven. And that's really what I wanted to just say today when I'm holding this book. So this is the book, and I want to just share the first time that I read this. I don't know if you remember this, but we had met. I was invited to sing in Spain with Steiner, And that is the ETTG, or the, remind me the acronym.
The European Transformational Teachers Gathering.
Right. So ETTG. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that Steiner invited me. And, even that alone, because really it was miraculous. Somehow I managed to get to that. We had 3 days notice, I think is what it was. And I just decided to say yes. And because of saying yes, if you go into your heart and you can say yes, then you say yes. So I did. It was so stressful to get there, I have to say, but we managed, and we were so tired. But because I did that, I met you. And
Yes.
I met so many beautiful people that are now in my life because I said yes to that. And I thank Steiner for that. So what I wanted to just say about this book, though, just going back to the point, which is really funny, is I remember that Corey was he needed to have some dental procedure done, right? So I really don't like the dentist. Okay, I'm not a fan. I think I traumatized. I had a really bad dentist when I was a kid. So I just don't like. I don't know. I get really nervous. I don't even realize I'm clenching when I go to the dentist. But I decided to bring this book with me to the dentist, right? While Corey had this procedure and work done. And I read this whole book while sitting at the dentist that day. And it was really interesting because it was in this really stressful situation that I just get when I go to the dentist. And I read this book, and I was so, I mean, I knew the story roughly, but I was so intrigued by how it calmed me. And it brought me back to my childhood. And it brought me back to those times when I was, a feeling, I don't want to say, how shall I say this? I miss my childhood at times. So I think going back to it through something like this is really interesting, because what I've learned years later is that you get to bring your child with you into your adult life. So no matter, even if you don't have children, I actually think this book is really beautiful and powerful for anyone, because it reminds you of your own child within. And that is things like, my teaching with Louise Hay's work, and holding, healing circles and many seminars and etc. It's always about the inner child. And whenever you're healing from anything, you have to go back to that space and bring the love and light with your little child forward. And I think sometimes we leave our kid in the past, and we need to go back, have a hello, I miss you moment and bring that child back into our adult life. So I think that's kind of what I just wanted to say about your work, actually, regardless of even if you don't have children. But if you have kids, it also is an opportunity for you to revisit your childhood with your children. And there's something about that that's very powerful. And kids love story about you as a parent. And I know as a kid, I used to love hearing stories about my parents when they were kids. So it really taps into that vein, or that, I think, just that divine connection that we have to our childhoods with our children and ourselves. So kudos to you. We'll talk more about this book in a bit, but
I have to share a story here, because when I gave you that book to take it home to Canada, you had just been on stage, and I was just, where is this music coming from? I'd never heard anything like it, and definitely not live on stage. So I was, who is this man, and where is he singing from? And I never heard of him before, and all of this. And soon after hearing your music and listening to it, I quickly understood that my cells are somehow affected by your music in my whole body. So it feels like my cells listen to your music before my brain understands what you're actually saying or singing, or the colors. And first my cells understand your music, and a huge healing is always going on when I listen to your music. So that's the first thing. And then you sat on stage and you sang My Heart, and I love that song. I mean, through all your albums, that one was like the first I really paid attention to. And to me, it felt like your song is my heart, and my book is in my heart. Yeah. And when you sang the song, it felt like you were singing my book.
Wow.
I think the vibration in much of your music and how I write, it comes from the same channel source somehow. So I had to give you the book because maybe you could recognize that vibration or channel or source when you read the book, and obviously
I did.
you did.
Clearly
Yeah.
did. And
Yeah.
I think what I'm starting to realize more and more too is that the same light is in you as it is in me, as is in
Yes.
everyone else. And what we've been, unfortunately, at times, what we've done in our life is we've masked it, or we've covered
Yes.
it up, or we've built a brick wall around it, is a good metaphor. And the more I do this work and help people or hold hands with people with my light, with my love, with my music, with my passion, with my soul, with my spirit, with, I will say, I use the word God, the universe, whatever you like. But I think what happens is you remind another heart that the same light within me is also in you. And
Yes.
when you realize that that light is the same, that love is the same, and that unconditional compassion or that unconditional brilliance that we're made of, something happens. And I witnessed this over and over and over again. And it's really funny because once you kind of know this, you're so surprised that not everybody gets it. Why don't you wait a minute, just stop and realize what's really inside of you? And I think what's really cool about your work and your I think your offerings to the world, your projects, they do that so beautifully because of your willingness to share it in such a way that's understandable. And I will say in my life, a lot of people don't really know how to listen to music. They don't really think about what it is. But what I wanted to say earlier, which I think is something that you and I both can sort of amplify in this moment. I remember, this is a very cool story. So I remember this is the craziest thing. So first of all, I get scared of being on the stage. I don't as much anymore. I'm not as terrified of it as I used to be. I've worked at that a lot, and I'm okay with whatever shows up as long as I realize it's of service. Mm-hmm. So anyways, going back to 2015, I was invited to be on Anita Morjani's stage in London, Ontario, which is my hometown in my home city. And it was this moment where she invited me because she was a fan of my music. So I had to say yes. And it was a really big yes because we were living in London, England. So I literally decided to leave what we were doing, move all of our stuff and head back to North America, which is just sort of a big commitment, right? So we moved back for that, did this, this big, move thing and, trying to figure out how to do this day. And I remember getting ready for that stage. And what's so wild is I was so nervous about it. I didn't sleep the whole night before I had to go to it, okay? And I think I drove Corey crazy that night. And what's really funny about that is I finally got to the stage. I knew I had it all planned, what I was going to do, what I was going to say. But one thing that happened that day that I will never forget, and I thank Anita for this more than anything, is I remember we had brought my CDs. And at the time, I think I had 3 or 4 CDs. I can't remember. I had 4 CDs at the time. And I remember having them on the table outside in the hallway to sell on that day. So I had performed. I think Anita wanted me to sing a lot more, but I just decided less is more. And I didn't want to take too much light from her. So I was trying to be conscious of not dimming her light. And I sort of had this sort of conscious struggle with that. So I didn't want to do too much. And anyways, I did sing my heart and I did do the rest of the things that I did that day. And then during the intermission, it was a full day workshop. And during the intermission, I was told to sell my music out front in the hallway. And I have to say, it's one of those moments in my life where I remember watching. So my mother, Corey, my aunt, my cousin, they were all with me to support me. And my mom and my cousin and myself were selling my music. And I will never forget the moment where it was mayhem. It was like everybody wanted everything that I had to give. And they wanted not just 1 copy, they wanted 4 copies because they wanted to give it to other people. And I was just I was so shaky with my nerves anyways, but then I didn't know how to handle this. But I just decided to just go into the corner and just watch this happen. And I was sort of in shock. But what happened in that moment is I will never forget that my heart was in those products.
Yeah.
My soul was in those products. They were once just my inside, then they were my outside physical. And then all these people showed up because they couldn't not get it while they could, because this moment was that kind of moment. And there was money flying everywhere. I remember just seeing like bills everywhere, and mayhem kind of happened. And we only had so much time before we had to go back to, the afternoon session. And it's a moment in my life where I always try to remind people that your inside value, your inside can literally physically create your outside. And I think what I just want to say is that your books are a great example of that. And to amplify sort of an experience, I wanted to ask you an experience that you've had where you've had something similar, where you realize you've done something. So tell me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I love that story.
Yeah.
One moment that comes to mind that has always been really dear to me is I've given a lot of talks in England.
Yes.
And I'm always nervous going there, not knowing which city I'm going to go to. It's been many new cities that I haven't seen before or been to, not knowing maybe the host of the event, not knowing who's going to come and how they're going to feel about my work. So, and speaking in English, of course, is always, it makes me more nervous than when I speak in Danish, my mother tongue. And I come to this venue and it's beautiful. And I soon sense that there are young mothers there, and some of even holding their children while I speak, which I loved. And then there's this grandmother with one of her grandchildren and her daughter-in-law. Mm-hmm. And she sits in the room and I see her, like her body is just growing, like she's this light in the room. And ever since, every time I speak, there's always one space holder who is there to support me. So it's someone in the audience who listens with their hearts, right, and who loves you for whatever you are, and not for how you perform on stage today. They just love you already, and they are there to support you. And she was just beaming light. Like I was just like looking into that light and finding comfort to speak about my books and how they could help all these young mothers who were struggling. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, I, like you, I sell my books and I sit there. And in England, it's very different from in Denmark, but they always buy books and they always stand in line and they want signed copies. Mm-hmm. So I sit there and I write little notes for the children. And I brought a whole suitcase of books. I had quite a lot of books and they were on the table and they were buying. And there was a pile left. And this woman, this bright angel, she stands at, of course, she's the last one. She's like in the back. And she comes up to me and she thanks me for coming all the way and how much she's loved the whole thing. And then she says, I will buy the rest on the table. Oh. She buys everything that's left to give to friends and family. And she has since then bought more books. And I just remember that as the most crazy thing. Like there were maybe 20 copies of that book left on the table. Like, and that whole, like the English pounds, they were just like in that same way you explained. Like, it's crazy.
That story is beautiful. And I will remember that forever. Because I think this is the thing that people like, how can we show that this is possible? Because this is the thing. This thing that we're doing, I thought was never, like, I don't know, in my wildest dreams, I could have never predicted that it would be this way. And I'm still sort of like, I still have my moments where I struggle with trying to figure out how to do this. But one of the things that I really know that I love about this more than anything is those people that show up the way that woman did for you. And I've had that happen so many times. And no matter what crap is going on in the world at any given point, this nutrition of light that we know reminds me of what's possible in our humanity. And I was just speaking yesterday, I have to just share, I was just speaking with someone that wrote a book with the Dalai Lama. This is, this is literally, it's in 24 languages and it's his autobiography, which is like, she's a really big deal.
Yes.
And I was with her a second time yesterday interviewing her, and you're going to follow her interview because my goal is to connect people together with that light, right?
Wow, that's
And
beautiful.
so that stream of consciousness, or that stream of love, that stream of life energy is always there. And I try to remind people wherever I go is that there's two worlds going on. And here's the only thing that deciphers between the two worlds is your heart.
Mm.
You either get it or you don't. You either understand it or you don't. And it's either on or off. And really it's that, I like to just talk about the fear or the love as a choice in every moment. And any time that you go into your heart, that world that's waiting for you of love can come from only one place, and it's from your heart. And these moments that I know that you've been in and I've been in is because we follow our heart. We know how to do this. We decode it, we discern it, and we go to those moments every single time. Because when you do that, something miraculous happens every single time. And there's very few people I can have that kind of conversation with in a creative way, because you do that. Mm-hmm. So I really, I just want to just amplify, the genius of you following your heart, because you give permission to other people to do it. And I honor you for that immensely.
Well, I reflected upon you and knowing now how I do it. Like, I've been a mentor to many people who want to make products from their hearts, or bring light into a product in some way. And knowing the different stages that you have to go to actually stand there on that table with your albums, knowing how hard it is to do everything by yourself, because some of it, like for you and I, channeling our creative content is probably the easiest part. But from hearing that voice or singing that tune or knowing what to write, letting your fingers dance on the keyboard, and then until it becomes a product that is sellable and that is understandable and that is affordable and all of that, it's such a long journey. And I often meet these really creative entrepreneurs who also have something to share with the world that can make a difference. But I see how they struggle to get to the end point. Maybe they finish up their book or their whatever product they are producing, but then they don't know how to bring it out there. So one thing is like you having your beautiful CDs in your hand and the box comes home and you get to unbox it. But how to bring this to all the countries that you're in is a whole different ballgame. And you have to go through these different stages when you produce from your heart, and nothing is given. You have to trust every step along the way until you have some sort of routine. Now you have many CDs and I have many books. So now it's like a craft that we know how to produce things. We have experience. But in the beginning, it's such invisible path. And you have to trust your heart every step on that path. And for those who actually go all the way and can stand with that product in hand, I think that's why we are humble, but also really know what it takes. Like it's such a huge deal.
Well, I have to tell you, I just want to say too, I think what people don't understand, and I'm going to say this, like I need to say this, is I don't think people understand how much work it takes and or how much faith it takes, because you
courage.
Have to put
oh my God,
ounce of courage into it to make it happen. But I have to say, the thing that's really interesting, I've been doing this consciously for 11 years now. So how long have you been doing what you do? Like
it's almost the same. 13. Yeah. What is we?
A little longer.
Yeah, 9.
That's a big
9 years.
But I just want to say this to everyone watching, is that the world needs the love that's in you. And this is the thing that needs to be said as well, is the world also needs you to support the people that are doing this love. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this channel on YouTube, is because I really want to bring people together in a community of understanding where everyone's mutually conscious and respectful of I think, ultimately how heaven comes to life on earth. And how do we create heaven is we have to understand that it's one ingredient, love. And it has to come from the inside to the outside. So I just think that anybody watching this, the new world that's blooming is a conscious world of love and light. And in order for it to thrive, we have to all support it by people, taking action with their love and supporting people like Gitte. And I really just want to amplify that, because I think that if we can do that right, little bits, because I know what I know about you is that you support other people doing this, like me or like whomever else that you work with. And I really honor that in your work, because it takes a lot of effort to get this sort of to where you have. And I think that you're just tapping into it. So thank you for doing that all.
Yeah. Well, the same, I want to say the same to you. And I also want to say, if you sit out there and you think, because often I meet when I do presentations or I speak at stages and stuff, I meet, well, you've already made it. Like, you've sold so many thousands of books. So you're already a superstar, best-selling author and all of that. But I wasn't in the beginning. So
you have to start somewhere.
And I remember when I in the beginning, I sold the 4 meditations that are in my heart. I sold them as PDFs one by one. I wrote them and I sold them as PDFs. And then in 2015, we were in Spain, my husband and I, with our daughters, and we were sitting by the pool, and I had to write an email to the print house to let them know if I wanted 200 copies or 500 copies. And I remember thinking that 500 copies was such a big deal. Like, would I be able to sell 500 copies of that book? That was really a puzzle. And luckily for me, my husband said, go for it, honey. You can sell 500 and not 200, as I was attempting, like thinking, okay, maybe I should start with 200. And when I pressed that email, it felt so courageous. It felt like I needed all my courage to say, I can sell 500 copies, right? And it was really a big, big, big deal. And we came home from Spain and I started saying, it's coming, it's coming. And before they came, 3 weeks later, they came to my home, I had sold 500 copies, all of them. We had to invite friends and family over to help me pack, because I put these little silky paper and little beautiful stamps and handwritten notes on everything, because I was just so excited about this book. So it was a big thing to do. And we had to pack that whole weekend. And that made me think that, okay, I need to reorder. So next order was 2,000 copies. And the most crazy thing was the year after, I translated it to English and I ordered 7,000 copies. To think that I see that whole beach in Spain, can I sell 200 or 500? And to now know today I've sold more than 40,000 copies. Yeah. So always, and I could ask you the same. When you first time produced, what did you think you could sell? I mean, so to know that we have all had to start, and we have been so courageous. Like it took so much courage to say yes to 500 copies. How do you feel about that?
I remember I had to actually, when I first started, I had to buy 1,000 copies was the deal. And I remember I remember going to pick them up and they were in so many cases. And it actually makes me laugh. And it was so much work. I know how to design like a CD much more effectively, but it was so much work working with someone that I don't work with anymore because it was just too much. But all of those little things you have to learn as you do this are just it's endless learning. So I commend you for those 500 to get to your 40,000. And I think you're just actually just touching the surface, because what you have here it's actually genius. That's the truth. So what I want to do is just shift gears. I do want to say one thing before we do is I always have this stone. My mother gave this to me when I was probably about 16 or 17, but it's engraved. If you look at it, if you look at it, it's engraved with create. All I want to say to everyone watching this while we're on this discussion is that we create our life every single day.
Yes.
We co-create it every single day, and everything that you do creates the experience that you're going to have. And that is, you're sort of creating your tomorrows today. And that future space and that now space, what I learned a long time ago is that it has to be conscious from my heart, or I don't enjoy my experiences. And I'm not willing to get to the end of my life and say that I didn't do that anymore. I couldn't do that after my dad took his own life because I saw him do that. And I think what I really want to say about what I learned from my father's suicide is that do not wait to follow your heart. And I love just amplifying, I think just, your life is a great example of what can happen when you take the risk. And I always remember this visual. Someone had shared this visual in a spiritual retreat I was at a long time ago. And that visual where you're sort of on a cliff and there's another cliff over here and there's a big chasm between them. And it's this picture that, you can jump over the cliff and make it, is sort of the idea. But what people don't realize, which I loved about this visual, is that when you go to jump, there are thousands of hands that will grab you. Don't even risk the jump because they'll help you to the other side.
Wow.
And I really love that picture because I know I couldn't do this without so many people that have helped me along the way. And what we don't know as human beings is that there are those light workers and those lovers of love that will help you. And I know that you've been helped by so many people that have, I've seen it with my own eyes, some of them, but I'm sure that you have some stories about all the people that have helped you over the years. So I just wanted to say you have helpers that will show up when you show up with, your heart, because people are waiting for people to show up with their heart,
Yeah. And also when you take that first step into like going over that invisible bridge, it takes so much courage because you're sure you're afraid you're gonna fall, or it's not gonna carry you. And I know that feeling. I've been there so many times, and I'm there now again because my dreams keep on evolving. So I need to learn new things all the time. But the thing that I really want to say here is that when you take that step, even though you don't think you're going to make it, or you're afraid you're not going to make it, you're afraid you're going to fall, once you stand there, new knowledge comes down. So because you took that step, you will gain new wisdom from your soul, from your heart, but also from the universe, that will make you see the next step on the bridge. Or I always see it as like a hanging bridge sort of a thing, but it's a misty hanging bridge. And once I believe, once I have the courage and the faith to actually take that step, even though it's not completely visible what's going to happen, then new knowledge comes in. And then I know the next and the next and the next, because it won't happen that you stand on one side and then you get everything served. You have to take the first step and then the next and then the next, and that new knowledge comes in all the time. And what it does is that it lifts your vibration bit by bit. So the end result is so much more crazy than you could have imagined standing on that side, trying to figure it all out, because we can't figure it out. So if we take that leap of faith to believe that when I follow my heart, when I print this product, or when I do this, I do it from a good heart, then know that it will be received by those who are ready to receive it. And then next step will show. And if we do that, we co-create with the universe in a different way than our minds can even imagine. So every time I stand there on that edge, I'm like, okay, the first step is always the hardest.
Yeah.
But now I know that if I tap into my heart and I ask, is this pure? Am I coming from the right place? And if I am, I now step out on that misty bridge. And then I wait a little bit. Okay, what am I receiving? So for instance, right now, us two having this conversation could be the next lead in my understanding of what is my next step. You do that often with me when we have these conversations. You show me something that I understand, and then, okay, next. It's like little leads from the universe, little
That's a
The
good way to
seed
put it. I like that little lead
is
from the
star
end.
seeds.
I love that. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to do as well, which I wanted to mention this, so I just want to say one more thing before we go on to the next section. One of the things that I think is really fascinating is my mother used to own a gift store. And
Mm.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but she used to own a company called Jane's Fancy. And we used to make fruit baskets for people in all different ways. So new babies, so when you would go to the hospital, my mother she was so ingenious as a young entrepreneur, and she would actually make gift and fruit baskets, and they would be put into the women's auxiliary of the hospital for people to purchase while they were at the hospital for people that were sick, or
Oh,
people that were having surgeries or babies, or and it's really interesting. As a kid, I used to witness this. And what's really interesting that I didn't know until actually going to Denmark, which I think is crazy, my mom never told me this, is that she used to buy Danish products and put them in the baskets.
ooh,
And
that's funny.
I thought that was the coolest Danish story that I when I come to Denmark next, I want to just I'm going to share, I'm going to ask my mom more about it. But I
Yes.
remember she always said that the Danish products that she used to buy had so much creativity in them.
Oh,
And I think it's really cool because obviously, and just the other day, Corey he brought something to my attention, is how much money Danish people spend on the childhood sort of, I think, schooling. It's one of the
mm,
highest in the world.
yeah.
Kind of interesting because, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but I think America might be the lowest.
Mm,
But how much money Danish people put into the importance of childhood. And I think it's really interesting because I think you're onto something here that the world needs to know about. I think just that stream of consciousness, because if we do this right, if we
mhm.
do this with consciousness, I actually think that the world changes forever. And when you support the child being, in a loving, supportive space consciously, then the world becomes conscious, because that's how it happens. So it has to
Yes.
be that 8 generation, or that 8 years of that sort of to help the world. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to just say to the Danish people watching this, thank you
Yeah.
for, I think, leading a great deal of what the world needs right now. So
Oh,
kudos.
wow.
Yeah.
That's an honor. And to the Danish people out here, we can also announce that Paul is actually coming to Denmark in the fall, and we are finding very cool ways for him to sing for us. And I'm already inviting you all to come and join us. You're going to have an amazing experience, and we will definitely tell you the dates and where to come
To be
and see
continued
him.
on that, and to be announced.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I'm already excited. Last time you were here, I was in New Zealand, like so far away, so I missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
But this time, I can't wait to see you.
Me too.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
yeah.
I love every aspect of coming to Denmark, and it's one of my favorite places, and I love it. So I can't wait. So that being
No,
said, I'm going to switch over to our PowerPoint
yeah.
presentation, just to simply share a little bit about, I think, ultimately what we have put together here. And here we go. So this is just, a little thing that I like to do on my YouTube channel, is I like to just put together, I think, just some visuals, and to discuss through this stream, or this flow, um, of this deck, essentially, of photographs. So first of all, I just wanted to say, Gitte's website is incredible. And Gitte, if you could just share your website address, the best one right now, that would be great.
For this picture right now, it's inmyheart.eu.
Mm.
To find this book is a good place to start. Otherwise, my name with a .dk or .com at the end.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to highlight this, is I'm going to put that at the bottom. So just, that's the information at the bottom of this screen now. And what I just want to sort of speak to is just the fact that this book is really, I think, the start of your incredible genius work, in the sense that, it all started in your heart. And I love how it's 4 meditations in one book. And I just think that this is such a book that the world needs. So anyone watching this, I think this is how you help your children. I think this is actually how you help your heart, your soul as well. And I don't put my name on anything at all that doesn't feel right with my heart. I would say to anyone, this book is a great investment of such a small amount of money. Definitely look into this if you're interested, and have a look into Gitte's work, okay?
Thank you.
So that being said, moving along here, I just wanted to just highlight exactly what you are in my words that are from your words. So I'm just going to mirror you. So Gitte, I say Winter Graugaard in my English, best-selling author and expert in peaceful bedtime routines. And I like that because it is a routine. And is an author of children's books on a mission helping thousands of children to better sleep. And so Gitte Winter Graugaard is an international bestseller and award-winning author of several children's meditation books. She is an international speaker and has actually done a TEDx, which I think is really cool. Have a look into that. Gitte teaches parents and teachers meditation techniques to help children thrive. At bedtime, she is truly creating magic in families, improving sleeping routines all around the world. Gitte believes that when we teach children to listen to their intuition, turn up their self-love, and reconnect to nature, we give them the tools they need to thrive in life. And thriving children are the ones who grow up with the power to one day make a difference. And this is, I think, you're tapping into how we change the world is really, it's a big deal, but one heart at a time. And it happens from these moments with connection of the heart, with that light. And moving on, I love this picture of you because it just shows, I think, just the gentleness of your heart and your soul and your kindness. And I just think the world of you this way. And I love this picture. It exemplifies your beauty.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we haven't really shared today, which I'm going to just speak to right now, is I don't even know, Gitte, when did you ask me to do the foreword of your book? This book. So I'm going to hold it up to the camera. So Heartlight. And when did you ask me?
I remember that we had a cup of tea, virtual tea during COVID lockdown, a special loving moment. And we were talking about how your music and my writing comes from the same channel source, feeling, has the same rhythm, same frequency. And we also talked about doing something together. And at that stage, Heartlight had come out in Danish, Hjertelys. And I saw the little boy on the cover after our conversation. And all of a sudden, I just saw you. I just saw you standing there because I often, especially when you are on stage, I see the little boy sitting there playing the piano and singing so fragilely, and just, you are such a talent and you are so vulnerable on stage. So I often see this little boy singing to us, and that even makes the experience even more strong. So I look at the cover, I'm like, oh my God, it's Paul on the cover. And all of a sudden, and I was just about to make the English version of this one. And I thought, what better way to try to blend our work together than to ask you if you would do me the honor to write the foreword.
Wow. I have to say I was holding back tears there because, going on a stage sometimes for me, because it is, I think my greatest fear at times is just the fear of failure, right?
Yeah.
So that light, I just think that light, I think every time that I'm on a stage, I remember that light inside of me is really actually to be shared. And I think that I approach it, I think the old me never used to sort of be willing to, because I was a perfectionist and I thought that people would judge me and be mean to me or cruel to me if I failed. So I never really took the leap. I think that leap we talked about, to do it, because I didn't have enough light, But what happened, and why I think your book is so beautiful, is it shows so clearly that that's the light, that when we give it first to ourself, which I think Louise Hay is a great teacher of that, when we give that light to ourself with self-love or self-worth, once you have that, then it can fill up your inside first, and then it gets to then be shared to the outside world. And I think that process, I wasn't taught this as a kid. So what I love about this book is it teaches that thing that I wasn't taught. And I find it very auspicious that I was asked to write the foreword by you, because I think, you know, you just spoke to something that if we can teach kids that they have that self-worth and that self-love inside of them, what happens when they know that? You know, what happens when they have that value and that understanding of themself with love, and it overflows into the life, is that they get to then do something for first their light and their love, but then the world around them. And that's the genius of this book, is it teaches it beautifully. So what I want to do today to honor this work that you're doing is I want to just read the foreword that I wrote to you. Okay. So I do want to just start. I'm going to start with the first page of the book, which says, "Remember, we all arrived on this beautiful planet as light and love, you too. And we can always return to that place within ourselves if we have lost our way in life. If the darkness has penetrated our castle, we are light and love. Let it shine." And those are your words, okay? As you know, I'm telling you something you know, but for anyone listening. And I decided, I really took some time to meditate and to reflect on what I wanted to say about you before I wrote this. And this was just a one-time sit down, and I wrote this. And I just said, I wish someone had read Gitte's book to me when I was a little boy, because I know if they had, I would have been much more capable and much more equipped to navigate the world and the challenges it holds, with more love and light and confidence from my own heart. It took me 34 years to begin to understand what Gitte has gifted you and your child with Heartlight. Gitte's work has already changed the world forever in more than 20 countries, and let me assure you, she is just getting started. Heartlight is truly bursting with radiant love and light. This little powerful gem of a book is a gift to both you and your child, and it will do exactly as its title suggests. It will teach your child to shine from deep within their hearts, and to provide them with a tool with which to navigate the world, empowering them from the inside out. This book will enable you to connect with your child like nothing else can. It will help you create a bond of trust between your heart and your child's heart that only a book like this can do. It will guide you with precision and great care to the delicate space of the heart we have within us. As an international Canadian multi-award winning singer, songwriter, and composer, I write conscious, kind, loving music to help the heart and soul feel its worth from within. And I know very well the power words and kindness can have when fused together with divine love from our hearts. I would never put my name to something unless I truly believed it would and could help the heart of the world with love. In my global worldwide audience, I experience the power of divine love from the heart every single day, and its majesty and magical power never ceases to amaze me. This book is filled with pure love, and Gitte masterfully takes you into the holy space of the inside world of your child's body with care and kindness, the inner sanctuary of what is often referred to as the temple that houses the sacred heart and soul. The word core came from the French word cœur, meaning literally heart. I truly believe that the core of our being is in fact the heart, and with this type of book, your child will thrive with light from the core of their being. I believe that when the heart feels empowered to shine with love and peace and goodness, it is then that the world shifts. If we want to thrive in our world moving forward, we must all heal our own hearts, and true healing begins with us understanding the inner space with peace and power that is self-generated. What I know for sure is that the world heals when we ourselves are healed. I love you, Gitte, with all of my heart. Thank you for asking the little boy in me to be a heartlight for your precious, precious book. Thank you for helping to heal the heart of the world with your Heartlight. You are a very special and important part of uniting the world from the sacred space of the heart. And all my love in gratitude and grace.
Oh. Oh my God. Hearing you, I read that already, but hearing you say those words is just
makes me want to bawl my eyes out with love for you. But so
thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and it's very true. And again, just check out Gitte. I'll put the website there for you as well. But so moving along here, did you want to share?
Yeah. I have a little thing to read as well.
Okay.
Because as I said, I feel such a connection to your music, and I know what it does to me. The way your music sings to my cells and lights up my cells, rejuvenates my cells, heals my cells. It's just something I've never, ever experienced with any other music than yours in such a deep way. And because we have access to your music everywhere, I often, when I'm stressed out or I'm on the train and it's too loud or too many people, or I'm in the airport or I'm working and I get stressed out, you are the first person that comes to mind, and I put your music on and I listen to it and my cells just relax and they just remember what we are here for and what my mission is, and in such a deep way that I am forever grateful for your music. And I want all children to listen to it just in the same way as I want them to read the books. Your music is so important. And I love knowing that it's played at hospitals, at nurseries, at schools, at funerals, even in barns, on farms, and healing right. People and horses and
animals.
I just love it so much. And that is also why I asked you to write the foreword. So let me just, I put you in the back. So let me just share what I wrote about you. Okay. Dr. Paul Luftenegger, A Shared Mission of Love. When I first heard Paul sing my heart stood still. It felt like that song was sung from the soul of my book, The Children's Meditations in My Heart. Paul has a unique ability to heal while singing. His divine music is for good reason played at delivery rooms, nurseries, kindergartens, schools, hospitals, among others. I often play Paul's music when I teach kids meditation. He and I share a deep desire to help children thrive. In many ways, I see Paul as the little light bearer on the cover of Heartlight. He brings out the child in us. From that beautiful place in all of us, peace can grow. Thank you, Paul, for your beautiful foreword in this book and for being my friend. Together, we create miracles. And then I've listed my top favorite songs for children among Paul's many songs. So My Heart, Universal Love, Highest Self, The Miracle of You, Beautiful Day, Superman, of course, and Spheres of Love. So thank you so much. And I also want to say that I'm also a coach and a healer, and I see many clients throughout the day. And when they suffer the most, even if I have 50 numbers on my playlist, your music always shows up, and it feels like you're omnipresent. It feels like Paul is coming into the room, standing next to me, helping me heal these people who have lost their way, have lost their vibration, are on a too low vibration, and together we lift them up. And it really, it literally feels like you're standing in the room. And in that way, you are my co-worker. And I am really grateful for that. So thank you so much. It means the world.
That whole, I think just that whole space of just this book opened something. It's like a portal to a space. So I really, to receive that, and I receive that with so much love and gratitude and grace to anyone that struggles too, that I've been a part of their life, and just that I can be, and that is even a possibility, is beyond my comprehension at times. But I also think that it's just a testament to what's possible. I think when you take those leaps, and I really, I thank God for everything that has happened, because I'm not big enough to do this alone. It's really about so much more than me. And I think it's the same for you, is we're here on these big missions to, I think, help the world, ultimately, So thank you a billion times over. That I will never forget you reading that to me and sharing this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So last but not least, I, just want to go through these beautiful photos. And I just took this picture this morning before we came on. And it's just an honest picture from behind me in my space where I sort of do this work around the world here. And it's a profound honor to be asked to be in a book. And I have to tell you, I've been asked to be in many books, and I say yes sometimes, very seldom. But I'm really picky because if I don't resonate with something, I refuse to put my name on it. If it doesn't have a message that's really, I think, in alignment with me. But yours was the easiest yes I've ever had. So,
yay!
And I
Lucky
think if it's self-explanatory when you just look at the picture, I think, that's that little boy in me or that little girl in you.
And look also at the light. Like if you see them next to each other, your cover and my cover. I mean, if I took them far away, they would.
Yeah, it's true.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Well, I
really saw that when you were holding that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to just be in this moment with you. So just wow, it's very cool. So what I want to do is always like to connect, some dots here. And
yes.
This was a beautiful moment. This was in the south of France. I was asked to, you were asked to speak, and I was asked to sing, and we came, bearing our gifts of light and love. And it was GLAY, which is Dr. Andrea Pennington's event that was really, looking at it backwards before COVID, before these weird times that we're in. This was such a gift. And your moment, I love your face on this, that you were just so in the moment. I love your sticker or your face. And this is just so you. But I remember your message today was supporting everyone there as light workers. And I'll never forget, I was right in the front row, and I think, in my opinion, your presentation, I will say this was the best, because I think what it did is it reminded other people that needed to hear that the support was coming from you, but the world needs their light, their love, their light work to come to the world, and you were inviting them. And I remember that so beautifully. So kudos to you for that.
I remember you sitting there so vividly. Yeah.
I want to just toggle back and forth. So this was you, and then this was us. Just to put that sort of like into perspective. This was you, and this was us. Yeah. So we were all having fun, and I think that this was a gift and a blessing. And that being said, I wanted to highlight, just what you're doing, and really honor you for the reach that you're starting to have. And these are some institutions and organizations that have supported your work. I want to ask you, what does this feel like seeing this today, sort of reflecting back to you?
It feels like stepping stones, like milestones, and like seeing my book in The Guardian, for instance, was huge.
Huge. That's a big deal. That's not that doesn't happen every day.
No, and I got to actually write a few articles for the yoga magazine in London as well, which was huge.
A big deal. That's a really big deal.
It builds up your courage. Yeah. So every little achievement in that way makes you more brave to take that next step. Like what it felt like from the beginning to now is that in the beginning I would step out of my comfort zone to bring my books out to the world, and then not so long after, I would also step outside of my skill zone. So now I wouldn't have the skills needed, and I wouldn't have the comfort being, I was outside my comfort zone as well. So I was really in unknown territory so many times during this whole global activation period. Having to do all these interviews, go on all those stages, and not hiding behind my books, and telling the world my message. That's what I said before. It looks so easy now. Oh, she's been on all that. That's why she's a success. But every little one of those was the next breath to be even more brave. So if there's one ingredient I think we need as light workers trying to bring our love out to the world and our light, it's courage. Right. It's really all about courage and faith, like believing, but courage is such an important ingredient. And each one of those has given me a little bit more courage.
Can I actually just, I want to say one thing about courage. And I remember, I always go back to Maya Angelou, who's sort of my, I think she's my fairy godmother in many ways about that. And I remember what she taught me about courage in 2011. And it was something to the effect of this, and I'm paraphrasing, but, of all the virtues and of all the values, courage is the most important because it's the one thing is how can you love without the courage to love? Or how can you be the change without the courage to be the change? Or how can you stand up when there's a racial comment without the courage to do it? And if you can, and I remember she used to be asked, how do you become more courageous? Because I have to say, like, I felt zero courage at points in my life. My humility and truth of that is very true. I definitely have had those struggles about self-esteem and, how to show up when you have no courage, to feel like you have no voice. This is very real for so many people. But what she used to say, which really helped me, is just that courage comes in sort of in teaspoons, just a little bit, just a little bit and a little bit more. And then eventually you have more courage that has grown big enough, but it starts little bits. And to just really acknowledge when you have those little bits, just really take a moment to really say like, okay, I have that. And I think that that's a great reminder is just what you said. And, not too many people that I talk to talk about that. And I think a lot of times people bypass how success or how these moments happen. And it's those connectors of the hard stuff reminds people that like it can happen actually, and just that hope of it too. So I commend you for saying that, because that not too many people say courage.
No, and also like not knowing the long journey you will go on, like you have no idea. And if you produce ordinary products, like a bottle of milk or something like that, that's hard enough. But we all know where the milk comes from and how it's produced and how it's bottled and all of that. But when you are creator of light products and love products, they are often invisible to most eyes until you find a way to produce it in format that can easily be received. And I really, to all light workers who are struggling with this process, I hear you, I feel you. I know it's hard, but I also know that we truly need you to be courageous. Amen. And we truly need you to just believe that when you feel it in your heart, that this can be of any help to anyone on this planet or the planet itself, then just find that courage, because we need you to be courageous.
Oh, beautifully said. Thank you very much. Amen to that. All right. So just to tie this all together and just to come into this sort of closing sort of spaces, I just wanted to honor just that. I think I don't even need to read this. I think that we've sort of touched on this, but I think ultimately that you have really reached out with your love. And more than anything is you're now at this goal of 1 million kids to fill their hearts with love at bedtime. And how would that change the world? And do you want to help, to anyone watching this? And, what I know to be true is real change is made by a small minority that make a decision to change. Every single thing in the world that's been evolutionary has started with a small, little, tiny group of people that didn't do the common denominator or the common status quo. And that actually is how liberation of love happens. So I really want to just say that anyone in their heart today that wants to be the change of this world, do not underestimate the power of your heart or your soul. I know when I started this a long time ago, it seems like lifetimes, I remember I thought that, when I put my stuff out, I thought that I'd have like, thousands of people come my way. And I remember having to just dial back for a moment with my humility. And I remember the message was very clear, is do not underestimate the power of one heart. And when we do that, if we can just have that mantra and constantly just keep going, one heart at a time, one soul at a time, that small little movement of that power, when we don't give our power to something that's negative, there's something very profound that starts to happen, and you start to see heaven reflect back to you in your life. And I've had this happen all the time, which is what this show is about. Is I remember seeing heaven reflected back to me in moments because my heart created it with love. And when we do it this way, something happens that I think we're in these evolutionary leaps right now. And, any light worker out there, just one step at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time, and just follow your heart,
Exactly.
So beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so the mission, the mission is 1 million kids. And if you can help, I always think that, a great place to start is call your libraries. Ask your libraries to have these books so that more people can see them. And then what happens when a lot of kids see them is they'll tell another one and another one and another one, or a parent will tell another parent. And that's just the way love works, right? And this is the thing that, God is in action, love is in action. So take some action steps toward it. And I think actually supporting other people is a great way for you. What you put out comes back to you, right? What you give, you receive. Those universal laws. So I just wanted to say this is sort of Gitte's new work. And Gitte, just maybe touch on this for a moment.
Yeah. So after having written the children's meditations in my heart, which you showed us in the beginning with the Love Mountain, I met so many children who had read the book, and they came to me at different occasions, and they gave me drawings of their love mountain, and they said, I have a love mountain, Gitte, I have a love mountain. And I would receive all these. That's one of the really amazing parts of my work, is when the children send me messages to say thank you for one of my books. I just cherish that so much. And all of a sudden I thought, okay, we have all these love mountains, and I had started selling in these 20 some countries at that stage. And so we had love mountains in Canada, all the way from the Rockies over to Europe, and all the way I was selling in Asia and in Australia. So all the way around the world, in the middle of everything, I had this range of love mountains. And I thought to myself, so these mountains are full of the purest thing we have, is the love of a child. So that's like the purest thing. So how would life be beneath that love mountain range? And I thought that there must be perfect balance. That must be like the Valley of Hearts, where the valley beneath the love mountains must be a very peaceful place. And I work with the 4 elements: water, fire, earth, and air. And I know that to create a book like this or an album like yours, we need all 4 elements to be in balance to come together to actually manifest the product. That's what I spoke about at Glay in the south of France. And what if children knew about the 4 elements inside of us from an early stage as well? So I took like the basic of understanding how to heal yourself with the 4 elements, and I put them into one book with 6 meditations, and it's called The Valley of Hearts in Danish. And as that became a bestseller and started helping a lot of children, I decided to make it into a series. So this is the 5 books that have come out of the Valley of Hearts. And the first 2, meet Chief Eagle Feather, who is your guide in the Valley of Hearts, who shows you the elements and how to balance your energies. That has been published. And also the Flame Dancers Fire has been published. And then the rest are still in progress.
Wow. Amazing.
So basically, you could say if you have a child with a lot of temper, it would be a good idea to find a way to balance the inner fire. Also, if your child's temper is quite dimmed, if you would like to see a little bit more temper, the fire can also help. If you have a sensitive child, an anxious child, or a hyper energetic child, then the water element might be out of balance, and the clear cascade can help. And most children today, if your child needs more grounding, some more peace, some more gravity, and to like really feel connected to Mother Earth, then the deep meadow is a good one. And if you want to work with your child's perspective of the world and creativity, then you can fly on the back of the eagle, Rocky, and and see, like watch the whole valley from above and get new perspective. So they each have different ways to balance those elements, and you'll soon find that your child will prefer some of them that they really need to work on, and you probably find that you will mirror some of that in yourself as well.
That's so powerful when I think about it too, because there's so many elements to this that are so it's just so consciously aware. The thing that I always say, it's always really interesting with elements. I'm going to say something that's on my heart too, that someone told me a long time ago, is that one of the elements that, and this is a spiritual sort of healer that says, one of the elements that's often forgotten about is metal. And I thought it was really interesting because I've never heard metal as one of them, but it's just an interesting, I always try to include metal if I forget, but it's one of those things where maybe it's the one you can't see, you know, it's there, but I really feel like there's so much beauty in your work. And I think I'm really excited sort of just, you know, where you're going with all of this. And it's been an honor to put some light on this. And I'm just going to stop the screen share and come back together.
Thank you.
And, you know, for anyone that wants to be inspired or anyone that wants some support, I know Gitte is an incredible resource. So I think if you're looking for any information, definitely reach out to Gitte.
Yes.
And just maybe just mention the best way to get in touch with you. What is the best way?
Probably find me on social media and write to me, or even write me an email on hello@gittewintergraugaard.dk. I can put that in notes as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Happy to receive emails with questions. Yeah.
Well, I really thank you for this beautiful share today. And I know that, you know, the best is yet to come. We're sort of on the precipice.
Training.
Yeah, this gorgeous precipice of these blooms that are blooming, and I'm just very thankful. And anyone that's taken time to share or watch this, thank you for just, you know, uniting with us in our pursuit of helping this world that I think, you know, is needing some reminders of support and community right now. And yeah, just take amazing care of yourself right now. And yeah. And remember the joy. I think, you know, the joy, I always try to remind myself is joy is always rising, you know, and just to remember the joy in it. And I think the spectrum of being human is, you know, the emotional intelligence of that is really important. So it's okay if you get sad, and it's great if you're happy and joyful, and everything in between is sort of what it means to be human. So just celebrate, you know, celebrate your life, and in all of its contrasts. And I guess we'll leave it there. And
yeah, I just want to say to my followers who will be watching this, that if you don't know Paul yet, get one of the CDs. And where can they get them, Paul?
Yeah, so I'll just put my I'll put my information, but you can, if you want a hard copy CD, you can just write me an email to, it's info@paulluftenegger.com, and I'll just put that down, and I'm happy to ship those around the world if you'd like one.
And then when you do listen, I recommend that you take your time to listen to any of the albums. I love them all. This is the new one, which I also love very much. Especially, actually, the title song has really grown deep into my heart.
It's about healing the world. It's a good one.
Yeah. It's really good. And close your eyes and just listen to the music, and then pay attention to what happens in your body. Pay attention to your cells, even if you are not aware of your cells on an everyday basis. If you don't feel you have connection to your cells, this might be the moment where you actually figure out what you're made of. All your cells will have a happy dance, will heal, will light up when you hear this music. So take your time and listen consciously, with your eyes closed, preferable lying down or in a quiet space. So this is not just any album. This is healing music.
Yeah, well said. And I have to say thank you very much. Just music is such a powerful thing because it's an intimate moment with a heart and a soul in vibrational understanding. And all of my music is to support hearts and souls from that, I think, just that perspective or that vantage point, with affirmations of love for oneself and each other. So I think that when we do that, that is where the miracle sort of vibration can, I think, do its thing, you know. So I think you said that beautifully. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
So Paul and I had talk about this before going on air. And what we truly want from our hearts is for you to take that next courageous step. And in order to push you a little bit to do it sooner rather than later, we are willing to put up a little competition here. So you can actually win a copy of our works of light and love. And I'm in Denmark in Europe. So for one of you in Europe, you can win what I'm holding. And for one of you in North America, you can win what Paul is holding by clicking on the competition URL that Paul has put in the show notes. And you tell us about your next courageous step in bringing your light to the world. And we can't wait to see what your next step is going to be. And we will salute you and we will bring light to whatever you are creating. So come and play with us.
Well, and I wanted to say the copy that you're going to get is so infused with this beautiful moment of sharing our heart light with you. So I think that it will go to the perfect person that's meant to have this. And no matter what, definitely take a moment to think about what you're willing to do in this world to expand some love and light. And thank you so much for tuning in. And it's going to be fun. So we'll keep you posted. Okay. Well, we're going to sign out here and we'll talk to you soon. Okay. Yes. Lots of love, everyone.
Bye-bye.